Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's been forever, like actually forever, but I'm finally back and it's perfect. Back in time for spooky season. Perfect. Today we're gonna be reading scary stories, and I have my little mic with me. My brother got me into my little braid. Okay, so let me stop chit-chatting it to the stories because I hate when they do that shit. Hold on. Okay, story number one. So this happened, I think, 15 or so years ago when my grandfather passed away. In my culture, the dead are cremated and are elaborated ceremonies performed. The body carried by people while chanting the name of a Hindu god. Ram after it has been cleaned, clothed, and ceremonial colors put on it. I was never very close to my grandfather. I barely remember ever having much to talk with him, but my parents say I used to talk to him a lot as a child. Anyways, when he died, I didn't really know much about him other than that he was a patriarch of the family and everybody respected him. I was barely 10 years old then and was supposed to stay at an aunt's house. Sneaky that I was, mm-mm, I managed to follow my mother when she left for my grandfather's house, unaware that I was a few steps behind her. Anyways, the ceremony starts there, a lot of crying, and soon four people, including my father, my uncle, and someone I cannot now remember, carrying the body on top of a structure made of bamboo and wood. They chant throughout the way. Nobody noticed that I was following them. They reach the ceremony. There's lots of people crying. I got bored standing at a distance. It's almost dusk and sits weirdly on a nearby platform. I would later come to know that it is a sort of memorial for the deceased. Sometime between all this is happening, I fall asleep, hours go by, and when I wake up, there's no one. Just the last flames burning through the pieces of wood. I panic. I look around to see if there's anyone, but there's no one. I start running towards the pier, hoping perhaps some of my relatives might spot me by the fire and get a hold of me. Again, no one. I start crying. I look to my tiny mind, rows after rows of memorials I mentioned earlier. It's almost dark, and I can hear animals howling at a distance. While all this is happening, I have a creepy feeling that I am being watched. It sends a shiver down my spine, and to this day I don't remember ever being so scared. It was such a dark and nauseating feeling, a sense of impending doom. I cry louder and start running. Little did I know that I was running deeper into the cemetery, farther from the road that would take me home. I reach the edge of the open ground and catch my breath near the tree line. I can hear faint voices coming from beyond the silhouette of the trees in front of me. Perhaps someone might be returning after gathering wood from there. I am again hit with this nauseating feeling, and it's stronger now. To top it all off, every time I walk or run, it felt like I could hear footsteps, like someone was right behind me. I turned around several times, yet found no one. I was so afraid to the point that I thought I might die. I took a leap of faith, ran towards the trees. The sound of footsteps behind me grew louder and seemed like whoever was near, almost at arm's length, like they could just reach out and catch a hold of me. I am audibly sobbing and shouting for help. There's barely any light, but I remember hearing people in the distance. Suddenly I am in a clearing and see there's a community pond with a bathing area. I can see people in my family and I ran towards. No matter how loud I tried to cry, there was no sound coming out of my mouth. Finally, an aunt saw me and ran towards me. The last thing I remember before fainting is a hand on my shoulder and my body almost freezing on the spot. I was sick for a week after that, had nightmares for years, and in general stopped going to my grandfather's house, or even the town. To this day I find it difficult sleeping in the dark, and sometimes wake up with a cold sweat and a creepy feeling on my shoulder, like someone was holding on to me. That's what happens for being a chismosa. They told you to stay at your tia's house. Okay. It was about 4 years ago. It wasn't the first paranormal occurrence to happen, just the one that scared me the most. One night, my 2.5-year-old son woke me and my husband up. When he crawled into our bed, I couldn't fall back asleep, so I decided to work on a project in my craft room. I was in there for about 45 minutes when the small monitor to the nanny cam started rapidly flickering on and off. Mind you, these were not motion censored cams, only continuous feed. The cams are in the living room and in our son's room. I went over to the monitor and picked it up. All of a sudden, made this loud, ear-piercing sound like a mic feedback. It startled me and I dropped the monitor face down. I noticed the glow around the edges had stopped flickering. I picked up the monitor and turned to look at the screen. I saw my son standing as still as a statue in the middle of the living room, staring at the wall. I stared for the door, with the monitor still in my hand. When I glanced down again, my son's head turned, only the head, and his eyes went directly to the camera. In the upper corner of the room, he had no expression on his face at all. I left the room, went through the small kitchen and dining room, rounded the corner to the living room, and it was empty. The door to our bedroom was on the other side. I went in there. My son was sound asleep, in the same position he was when I left him. My husband looked up from his e-reader. I asked him if he had woken up and went to the living room. He told me no. I asked if my husband had gotten up to go to the bathroom or kitchen, thinking maybe he just didn't see our son trying to follow him. But my husband swears he hasn't left the bed at all, and our son has been peacefully snoring away the whole time. Like I said before, this wasn't our first time we had seen doppelgangers, but it was always so brief that you didn't really have time to get scared or completely register it yet. This was different. It wasn't just a glimpse. Above all, it was the look on my son's face, that empty void stare when he turned his head to face the camera. Still, even now, typing gave me the chills. Yeah, it gave me the chills too. Imagine a little kid just staring at a damn camera, like your own baby, just, and it's not even your baby. It wasn't even the baby. The baby was sleeping. Yeah. Story number 3. So one of my closest friends growing up lived in a house that was beyond a reasonable doubt haunted as fuck. The house was definitely somewhere around a century old, or at least now is, and our town was situated in a very woodsy suburb. He and every member of his family had experiences there. Several of our friends had their own experiences there, and I had my own too. Honestly, it would be impossible to try and condense it down into one experience and believe it's worth sharing the accounts I can remember. I'll start with the least scary one, which was thankfully my own, and then move on to the ones worth telling. Oh, so there's multiple in this one. During high school, my parents went on a vacation, and for a few days I stayed at this particular house of my friend. Let's call him Paul. I stayed in Paul's room in a sleeping bag on the floor while he slept in his bed. One morning, I woke up to someone whispering in my ear, like directly into my ear. My name, you need to leave. Now. It did not say this super maliciously, almost more of a warning. It definitely woke me up though, and immediately I'm thinking Paul was fucking with me, as he frequently did. But I turned around to my right, where he was sleeping, and realized he was completely out. I said, "What?" to him, thinking he was joking around. He didn't wake up. He was definitely asleep. It was quiet and still too early for even Paul's parents to be up. Then it hit me, as it still hits me today. I heard the whisper in my left ear, and Paul was on my right side. Mm-mm. Paul had other experiences in the same room, a few I can remember off the top of my head for a time. He told me he suffered from sleep paralysis on a consistent basis. He would see demons in his room and would be unable to move. He told me that very frequently in his sleep, the standing fan by his bed would become a demon girl, and he would wake up with a jolt of adrenaline, having punched or thrown the fan down to the ground. He told me he would sometimes see someone standing in the closet, his bed faced both asleep and awake. Oddly enough, his sleep paralysis significantly decreased as soon as he moved out of the place. The floor in the second floor where Paul, his parents, and two of his four sisters slept was spooky. I remember getting weird feelings up there. One of his sisters claimed to see the ghost of a little boy in the bathroom. His mom once opened the closet in their bedroom to find the same little boy standing in there looking up at her and asking for his mom. I heard about that one when I was in middle school and it always creeped me out. It's always scarier when the adults see them too. Before my own experience, I generally thought Paul was just trying to fuck with me when he told me about these other experiences. Most of our friends were the same way, thinking Paul was full of shit. Even after my own experience, at the same time, I thought I just easily could have dreamt it. But then a few of those friends, some of them complete non-believers beforehand, had their own experiences, and that changed my whole idea of the house. Okay, Paul. Yeah. Well, good thing he left. I think four. I've had so many incidents over 20 years that we lived in that house. This is one of the scariest. My grandson was sitting in the middle of our couch watching TMNT. I was sitting in my recliner right beside the couch. I was playing a game on my phone, so I wasn't paying attention to anything. My grandson made a weird sound like he was choking. I looked at him and he had tears streaming down his face, but was making no sound. I jumped up reaching for him, and at the same time he flung himself towards me. Just as I grabbed him and I stood up, I was face to face with a shadow person. As soon as our faces were in front of each other, the shadow person jumped straight up through the ceiling, vanishing. It took almost an hour to calm my grandson down. When he could speak, he said he saw the shadow person and tried to tell me, but he couldn't talk. He finally made a sound, and when he did, he saw the shadow person move towards him. That's when he flung himself at me. That is the only time I really felt threatened. I've been scared plenty of times, but this one was different. Story number 5. Years ago, I'd say maybe 1995-ish, some friends and myself went to see Ed and Lorraine Warren in Connecticut for one of their October shows with videos and Q&As. Always a fun night. Have seen them numerous times. They had videos of the White Lady of the Union Cemetery that Ed had captured. It looked pretty crazy, so the day before Halloween, about 10 of us went to the Union, loaded our film once we got there and were ready to explore. Didn't see anything too out of the ordinary, but did hear a ton of strange noises around the cemetery and church, which was a little scary to be honest. Took a ton of pics of the gravestones church. We had a few of us hold hands to make a circle on the church steps in front and called spirits if there were any. About a month later, one of my friends finally got pictures back. We were all pretty stunned with what we caught. The pic of us holding hands at the church had a huge yellow orb in the middle of us. Tons of orbs at the cemetery gravestones. And the freakiest of all, someone took a picture of the church. There was no one inside when we were there. In the picture was a side view of a window with an old man inside wearing a hat, like legit in the pic. It was very strange. Unfortunately, I'm not really in contact with any of the people I went with, but I sure love to see those pictures again. They got to see Lorraine Warren and Ed Warren. When, girl, when? Let me go with you. So story number 6. I witnessed a spontaneous exorcism. I don't even do. While at a prayer meeting in high school, so like 10 years ago, but I remember it like it was last week. No one knew or could tell that this guy had an attachment to something he picked up while on a mission trip, more like church field trip. The week prior, the only way we knew anything was up was his demeanor totally changed. His voice was something not human and began acting weird. The guy literally sprinted outside and his scream sounded like something was being ripped off of him. The older men in the group who chased after him, this was at a friend's house whose parents were involved, reported his body temp rose when they touched him to pray on him. And then the screams got even louder and sounded like the last 3 other screams in one. Meanwhile, the others, including me who were inside, somehow acquired the ability to speak in tongues. When that happened, his screams then changed to 3 in one sound. It was really bizarre. Anyways, this whole ordeal lasted at least an hour. Once the scream stopped, the guy fell asleep and woke up with any memory of the event, and there was this heavy but liberating peace that filled the area. He then told us he was experimenting with some voodoo hoodoo things while on this trip to NOLA. He figures something attached to him then, but who really knows? That was my first and last prayer meeting, but can say without a shadow of a doubt, the spiritual realm is real. Spiritual warfare is a thing. Yes, it is real. And it would be my last two because at a church, out of all places. Okay, well, that's it for today. I feel like I read a lot, but I could have sworn I found more stories, but I guess not. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I come back with another video. Maybe a pumpkin patch or something, cause or who knows if this one, if you guys like this, you want more scary stories, let me know, cause yeah. Okay, bye. Thank you for watching.